In about 20 minutes, we heard from perhaps the easiest quarterback to root for in the NFL today. You'll hear that. You can make that own case. You can make the case to yourself in just a little bit. But that can wait because it's March and we're being joined by our good friend, Mike DeCourcy, the Hall of Fame sports writer from the Sporting News, Fox Sports Bracketologist as well. And let's just right out of the box get to the $1,000,000 question everybody's asking today. After Miami University's loss in the MAC quarters, where do you project the Red Hawks to be on Selection Sunday, less than 72 hours from now?
Well, do I get $1 million if I answer this question correctly? I
Great
think
question.
that's a fair deal. I expect.
To quote Forrest Gump, they must keep that money because I hadn't seen a dollar or a nickel of that money.
I suspect that they will be on the 11 seed line, one of the last teams to not have to play a extra game in the first four in Dayton. That's my belief at the moment. It could change based on results elsewhere, although we're running out of results, so to speak, because so many of the teams that are on the bubble or aspire to the bubble have lost and lost very early in their conference tournaments. In a lot of instances, lost to unimposing opposition. This was the stat I came up with late Wednesday night, that there were 16 teams, major conference teams. I believe it was, no, sorry, 14. There were 14 major conference teams ranked between 40th and 60th in wins above bubble that played on either Tuesday or Wednesday of their conference tournament, which you're playing Tuesday or Wednesday, you're not up there with the heavyweights. Okay, so 14 teams played on one of those 2 days, and 11 of them were eliminated. There were only 3 left of that group after Wednesday. And so the reality is, for most of those teams, they hadn't really done enough to feel comfortable. And now they have no chance to do anything more except talk. I got off, I was on the Fox Sports on FS1 bridge show between the first evening quarterfinal and the second evening quarterfinal at Madison Square Garden. And Dan Hurley, before I got on, joined the crew and talked about how after the Marquette game, how disappointed they were. And they tried to regroup. And one of the things that he said was, we have been, I shouldn't say you, he said, we have been one of the 5 best teams in college basketball all year. Let's go out and prove it up in New York. And I just love that, Josh, because he's the only coach in all of America this week that was honest about his team. I don't know, maybe some of the guys that are 1 seeds are like, yeah, we're really, no, none of them do that either. They all say, oh, well, we got things to do. So no one is honest except Dan saying, like, we know that we fell off that line and we're not sitting here saying we should be on it. We have to go grab it and hope it's there to grab. And I really respected that.
A quick drive-by on that. How firm do you believe Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Florida to be the 4 number 1 seeds?
The first 3 are done, over. Arizona has already played, so they played their quarter. Duke played their quarter. Arizona won easily. Duke struggled but won. So they would have been over even without those wins, but they got them. And then Michigan plays Friday. I don't think they don't need that win. But here's a stat courtesy of the great Dave Warlock, who runs the PR for the NCAA tournament and other things at the NCAA. But that's his primary duties, is running March Madness media relations. No team since the dawn of the expanded bracket era, 1985, no team has won the championship after losing in their conference tournament quarterfinal. So Duke avoided that, and I was thinking about that as they were struggling. Arizona, no trouble. And then Michigan plays on Friday in Chicago in the Big Ten, and it's up to them to get through that game. Why hasn't that ever happened? I suspect, I think of Pitt 2011, a team that man, to get a 1 seed, like they should have planted a flag right there. And of course, their fans thought, well, why aren't we on the final? No, man, you were never that team. Like you were that team, but you were never that good. Like your talent wasn't there. And like you just super overachieved to win the league that year, to win the Big East. And then you lose in the quarterfinals because Kemba Walker gets caught in a switch or catches Pitt in a switch and breaks the big guy's ankles and hits a step back and they win. And that's often what happens when a team that's really not a great team but earns a 1 seed. That's what happens to them.
Is that how you feel about that 4th number 1 seed, whoever gets it?
No, I like them both. I think they're both terrific. First of all, Florida has to play Kentucky now. They have to play them, so that's another team that has to win their quarterfinal to show that they're worthy of a championship, I guess. And UConn already has, although theirs wasn't much of a challenge. They played a 10 seed in their league in Xavier, but they're through it and on to the semis. But I like both teams, and I think UConn is more problematic as a team because they offensively they are somewhat erratic, and they're waiting for Braylon Mullins. They're not waiting like at a bus, but they're trying to get Braylon Mullins there. They're trying to get him to be the player he's capable of being, because if he is, that gives them the gear they need to maybe go win this thing. I don't think they can win it without Braylon coming into the NCAA tournament and on balance shooting ballpark 40% from 3 and being very efficient as a player, which he hasn't been lately. He's had a rough freshman year. He's been injured twice, and that's caused him to fall out of alignment, so to speak, with the other team in much the same way that Darren Peterson has been because of all his absences at Kansas. It's not as pronounced and certainly not as publicized, but that has been the difference between them being a great Big East team and a team that could win the national championship.
Mike DeCourcy is with us here from the Sporting News Fox Sports Bracketologist. You're putting your thumb on something that, for those who follow the sport, has been an unfortunate headline throughout the season, an unfortunate trend where a lot of the better teams going into the tournament, the injury bug bit this year. Talking about JT Toppin at Texas Tech and talking about Richie Saunders at BYU, that comes to mind. Caleb Wilson at North Carolina. And heck, even some of these front runners, Michigan, Elliot Cadeau, we hear guards win in March, not going to have LJ Kaysen as the backup point guard who tore his ACL. And then the reason Duke got pushed largely tonight by Florida State, no Caleb Foster probably for the rest of the year, and no Pat Gamba this week, which means you have no point guard if Caden Boozer is out of the game, and you have 2 forwards that you're playing with this week. How vulnerable, focusing on Duke, do you believe the Blue Devils to be? How much different is this than, say, last year conference tournament week? We were talking about the Blue Devils without Cooper Flagg, and they still went on to cut down nets in Charlotte, and Cooper, of course, returned in the tournament.
Well, I think the difference is somewhat the competition. There are better teams in the ACC this year than there were a year ago. And that's a big difference. I mean, if you took out Cameron Boozer, and thank goodness we're not, I'm not trying to speak anything into existence, but if you took him away from the Blue Devils in this ACC, they're not winning it. Caleb Foster is what they lose from Caleb Foster is one of the better on-ball defenders, maybe one of the best on-ball defenders in college basketball. He is so physical, so strong, so sturdy, and very dynamic, and it's hard to get by him. And that's where the challenges for opposing offenses begin. And then you have like Dame Sarr as a shutdown wing, and you've got Gangba, who has improved tremendously as a defensive center, was not great at it a year ago. He's not, I mean, I'm not saying he's Dikembe Mutombo, but he is a terrific defender now. And they're missing that as well. So that's where they lose the most, and where they have to make up for it, and did not for a lot of the Florida State game, is they have to be better on offense. They can't get worse on defense and worse on offense. Caleb is a tremendous college player. I just described to you what I love about him, and he's an excellent shooter as well, but he's not really a point guard. mean, everything that he does as a point guard is kind of a force. He's naturally a shooting guard. That's his spot. He's a wall up defender, and he's a catch and shoot guy, and he can go by you if you close out too fast. But he's not gonna shake and bake you and get past you that often. So you need to then take what you lose from him at the defensive end, and you have to be additive on offense, which means Caden Boozer, who is more of a true point guard, maybe not a better shooter, but a better driver and better at getting the ball into the lane and making a decision. Those kinds of things can be accelerated, and maybe Duke can counterbalance that and at least, if not better, maybe not a whole lot worse. And if you're Duke and you're not a whole lot worse, you're still the best team in the ACC.
Let me circle back where we started talking about Miami of Ohio. What type of taste in your mouth would you have if the committee decided to leave them out? What message would that send?
Well, it would be horrific, because first of all, it would tell all the mid-majors you could literally win every game you play in the regular season, and we still might leave you out. It would also almost certainly, one of the high-level qualities that they have used over the past several years to select the field. This was, if I have a second, I'll tell the story.
Please.
Okay, I went in 2017 or 2018, I was invited to what they called the analytics meeting at the NCAA headquarters. And I was living in Indy, so it was easy. So it didn't cost them anything. I think that helped. And also, I think they wanted somebody in the room that was basketball first and math second. And that certainly described me. And they came about to the idea that they wanted to have a new metric. And that's where the net became the idea. Now, it wasn't really what we in that room said. That the math guys said, don't try to squish predictive and resume metrics together. And that's kind of what they did, although they've basically leaned more toward a predictive metric in the net. But the team sheets gradually morphed into split between predictive metrics. The team sheets are the tournament resumes. Predictive metrics like Ken Palm, BPI, and now Bart Torvik's T-Rank. Those three are on there. And then the resume metrics, which for a while there were only two, KPI and strength of record, but they came up with wins above bubble. They licensed that, I guess, and now that's on the team sheet. And that metric is very important to the selection of teams. Last year, how did Carolina get in? I mean, there have been lots of theories about that, but one of the elements that was in their favor was that they ranked among the at-large candidates in that pool in wins above bubble. That was one of the things that was in their favor. Right now, or as of Thursday morning, before they played the game against UMass and lost, they were 31 or 32 in wins above bubble. You're not falling 15 spots with that loss, as disappointing as it might have been. They're not going to fall to a non-field position, especially when there aren't teams behind them that are winning. So they're probably going to wind up 36 or 37. Seth Byrne, who invented wins above bubble, said on Twitter that he hadn't done the calculation yet for that game and what it would mean, but that he did not see them anywhere near Dayton. That was his quote on Twitter. He didn't see them going anywhere near Dayton with the decline, whatever decline it was, that they would take from this game. So they would be rejecting their own principles if they didn't take Miami into the field. Not just the 31-0 regular season, but also their own principles, where that metric and the ones associated with the strength of record, which is an ESPN deal, has Miami 21st. Like they don't think that Miami's regular season was a joke. The strength of record formula, which I've always really appreciated, it really embraces Miami. So everything about what usually gets you in says they're in. So if the committee said no, it would be, I think there would be outrage.
What would be a bigger crime? Miami of Ohio not in the field, or one battle after another on Sunday not winning Best Picture?
No, there are other good candidates for Best Picture. I think that Sinners would be a worthy winner. Sinners
They're a better candidate on than any of the bubble teams. Better. That's
no
not an
doubt.
Auburn. That's not an Auburn type of movie.
No. Sinners was an excellent movie. I'm not the biggest horror fan. It is easily my least favorite genre of films, and so I didn't love all of that, but I thought it was a wonderful picture, unbelievably well acted and performed. The music was astonishing. If Michael B. Jordan doesn't win because they're trying so hard to get Timothée Chalamet an Oscar, Michael B. Jordan's performance was 3 times as good.
Thank you.
And technically it was twice as good because he was 2 different guys, but it was really 3 times as good because it was that good. He has to win. And like if somebody said Train Dreams is going to win, I'd be like 2 thumbs up. I thought it was such a fascinating movie that anyone would make that movie in 2025 when everybody says nobody makes movies like that anymore. Hey, they never made movies like that, where it was so quiet and such an understated story. And there was no, it was not about ripped from the headlines, or I mean, it was just a quiet story that was beautifully shot and beautifully performed. Disappointed he didn't get a Best Actor nomination also, but then I saw Begonia, and I realized that wasn't even the biggest snub for the Best Actor. There were others out there that had done even better work than that. So I just think that all in all, it was a really good year at the top, not so great at the bottom, but at least my thank you to the Academy. I will thank the Academy for not making me go watch another Avatar film. Thank you very much, the Academy. I really appreciate it.
Mike DeCourcy watches all the Best Picture winners each year. Very good at the top, not so good at the bottom of the field. It does sound a lot like college basketball. Mike DeCourcy, Fox Sports Bracketologist, also the Sporting News. I think if we had to put it in order, basketball first, math second, movies third. We have those rankings as well. Mike, it's good to see you. Thanks for always making the time. I'll see you in Indy.
All right, Josh, look forward to it.